I believe that ambition is a masculine trait.
Why?
So I think that when you typically look inside people and you go, okay, so these are the characteristics that are traditionally like creative, they're achievement based, they're going for accomplishment, then they tend to be more in line with what we traditionally associate with men. And I believe that the things that uniquely make men men in terms of chromosomes, hormones, testosterone, things like that, are what naturally gear people towards wanting to achieve. If you look at things that are more traditionally feminine, kindness, compassion, nurturing, that kind of thing, I think that like greater doses of like estrogen, for example, are more likely to promote that. So
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say that ambition is a masculine trait and that nurturing is a feminine trait.
I think, based off what you've just said that all of ambition, you're saying it's coming from the biological differences between females and males.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think ambition is something that can come from like the way your brain's made up, like your brain composition, which is you can stereotype females and males, but everyone's brain composition is different, and also kind of like their values in life, right? So it's not just ambition comes from the changes in our genetics in terms of masculine and feminine. I think that's like not correct. So I think because ambition can come from other things like social factors, like the way you've been brought up, and like the way your brain's made, that's why I don't think it is a feminine or masculine trait.
So a little bit more nurture, a little bit less nature. That
Yeah, a lot of nurture, but even nature in the sense of the way your brain's made up. So
Yeah.
some people's brains are made up to maybe pursue careers where ambition is like a massive thing, whereas other careers aren't. Like, for example, I'm a female, and in the career I'm in, I think in engineering, it's really important to be ambitious, and that's something I've always valued.
Yep.
And something I strive. And if you ask me why, I just see that as it's just it's more of a personality trait rather than my genetic makeup. So
okay.
yeah.
And so do you have a reluctance to label those personality traits that are helping you accomplish things and make you ambitious? Do you not want to label them as like, oh, that's the masculine part of me?
No.
Okay, why not? What's your reluctance?
Because I
around that?
don't think it is a masculine trait.
Okay,
Do you know what I'm saying? Why would I use the adjective like it's a masculine trait if I don't think that's the right adjective for?
No, sure, I understand.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll explain why I've used that one.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and you'll disagree or disagree, but we'll find
Yeah,
out. It'll be
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
So when I look at like the high-powered like women, like
Yes.
think of your Hillary Clintons or Condoleezza Rices or whatever, or CEOs like Susan Wojcicki or whatever her name is, the person who's the CEO of YouTube, the way they dress, the way they conduct themselves, the way that they speak, it's very like impressive in one sense, and like right, there's an efficiency to it, there's an ambition. But I think most people, at least colloquially, would describe them as more masculine kind of women as compared to your 50s housewife kind of, oh, I'm just all dainty and gorgeous. And
But why does that make them, if they can articulate themselves well, why does that make them masculine? That's my...
I guess I probably wouldn't have used articulate.
Or you were just describing like the way they speak, the way they conduct themselves.
Okay, so I probably, I'll go with that one.
Where's the masculine?
I think that possibly it's the way that you use speech. So traditionally, I would say that women have used language traditionally to communicate feelings, to show empathy, to socialize, things like that, which is why you find on average women speak about twice as many words in a day than men do. Men are a little bit more like scarcity minded with their words, and they use it to just convey information as like efficiently as possible.
Yeah.
And so when I meet a woman and she's not like using flowery or poetic language, she's like, no, here's to the point, I'm just going to say this and say this. I'm like, oh, she's got a slightly more masculine way of speaking.
Yeah. Well, I think they do speak about feelings more, and there's lots of reasons why that's the case. But I don't think that's all women speak about.
No, of course not.
So a woman can speak about feelings, but then she can speak about a whole different range of things. And I guess all the other way she describes things, I think there's times for flowery speech and not flowery speech. So I think women are capable of both. I don't think, not all men, but some men find that kind of like using adjectives or really explaining how they're feeling sometimes is a bit hard. So if anything, I see it as female can do both, because I don't think just women speak about their feelings in a flowery way. I think there's a lot of women who can say things very like clearly and succinctly, and yeah, I don't think it's just females can speak in flowery way and that's it. Like I think they definitely speak in a succinct way as well.
Look, so I definitely agree, and I actually think we have a lot of crossover here because I believe that women can speak in both ways as well.
Yeah.
And of course, I believe men can speak in both
Yeah.
ways as well.
Yeah.
It seems to be, just for clarification, where the disagreement would be is like, I have no issue with using the labels like, okay, so they're speaking more masculine or he's speaking more feminine and using those labels, but those labels don't resonate with you, they don't reflect it. Whereas I guess in my mind, what my question would be is it because you have a negative connotation with calling it like masculine? Like, I'm not putting down women if I'm saying like, oh, they're more masculine, like saying that that's a problem.
I see that as a negative connotation because I see it as they're not allowed to, not that they're not allowed to be feminine, but it's like, why are we calling them masculine? Like, I see it as a negative connotation because it's like, why can't you let them just be females rather than saying they're masculine females? Like, putting on a masculine spin to it, or kind of like, it's kind of like there's all women and then we compare them to men. So it's like, how feminine she or how feminine she.
Yep.
You know?
Okay, so
I don't think you need to be related to the other sex in terms of, you know, say you play soccer, for example.
Yep.
I do engineering, and I play a lot of sport. People might say, oh, they're masculine traits. But then there's a lot of feminine sides to me. Like, I like to take care of my appearance and clothes and makeup and girly things. So it's kind of like, can you label me one or the other? I don't think so, because I don't think like...
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
that actually might be the cause of where we're getting confused, though, is
Yeah.
because I'm not trying to make a case that you are one or the other, or that
Yeah.
people are one or the other. I believe that we have both masculinity and femininity inside us, and
Yeah.
actually, people
Yeah.
who are just one and not the other are actually kind of boring. Actually,
Yeah.
want a little bit of a balance in both,
Yeah.
and I think that that's beautiful.
Yeah, I think I disagree in saying I don't think speaking in a clear and concise or get to the point kind of way, I don't see that as a masculine trait.
Okay.
So that's why I don't like that label on she is a masculine female because of what you said.
Okay, no, and I can respect that. So I'll just test to see if it goes the other way, and then maybe we'll
Yeah.
finish up. So I remember when I was with a friend in the hospital, and there was a male nurse there, and he just had a beautiful, calming way.
Yeah.
She was very, very panicked, and he was really compassionate and sort of sweet. And we both sort of said, like, oh, it's so nice that he's got this feminine, nurturing energy. That's exactly what we need right now. Had he come in all masculine and sort of been like, what's wrong with you? You know, there's no sort of problem. It would have jarred against us. Would you have a problem in that instance of us describing his mannerisms, his way of speaking as feminine?
I think the only reason why I say yes is because that opposite sentence. So you gave me like the flip version.
Yep.
That is less common. It's more rare. Because I think there is a lot of like toxic masculinity in how like boys are raised. So so I feel like because it is more of a outlier, you would say, oh, whoa, that is really different. Whereas I think there's more, so for that one I think yes, because I think that's more of an outlier than like say females who, to your words, have these like masculine traits.
Yep.
You know
So
what I'm saying?
yeah, I do.
Yeah.
But I'll just put it in my words to make sure that I've
Yeah.
got it exactly. So you believe that it's more common for women to be, you know, to have what I would have called masculine traits,
Yeah,
but that
yeah.
sort of thing. But it's less common for men to be displaying traditional feminine traits.
And the reason why is because the culture around like toxic masculinity, that's worse than the female culture of you need to be like a housewife.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
This isn't as strong or as powerful, I think, or as powerful of a force than the toxic masculinity we see mainly in growing up in schools, and then that's like stuck in, that's their minds. Not is their mindset, but it's somewhere in there, like it's ingrained somewhere in there.
So, like in schools, you mean like boys running around, like pushing girls down, that sort of thing?
No, I just mean the way social cues boys give each other of how they're meant to behave, or what it's like to be a man, or how they're meant to treat women, and what it is to be cool and manly, and what it isn't. Like the messages they give each other, I guess,
Would come in.
Yeah, is like more of a powerful force and like a peer pressure force that ultimately develops some of their views compared to like the female growing. Like I've never had people say to me, what the hell, you don't want to play sport, like you need to be wearing dresses, why are you wearing pants? Like, you know, like that.
Not a
that's
common
never
conversation.
happened. No,
Yeah.
not at all. Yeah, no.
So as I've walked around like uni today, I will say, and maybe you'll disagree with this, but I see a lot of feminine men, like from what I can see. The way I see a lot of fear and anxiety in their eyes, a lot of hunched over behavior.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like, this might sound not PC, but I would guess a lot of the men that I've seen today, they seem gay to me. Like I'm sort of like,
Really?
their mannerisms
Do they
are sort of being like,
actually?
oh wow, like, I'm not seeing a lot of like traditionally masculine men, and so I guess I hear the toxic masculinity thing, and part of me looks around and goes, well, it doesn't describe my friends. It doesn't seem to describe the people I see on the street. I don't know how common it necessarily is. Do you think there's any truth in that? That it might be overblown a bit?
Well, personally, in my experience, it describes a lot of the guys I know.
Okay.
Like 90%.
Yeah, right.
Maybe 85. Maybe because people go to university and usually like spend time getting educated. This is a generalization.
That's fine, yeah.
Don't stand by it, but they usually have a more open attitude to things. So maybe that's why they don't give in as much to these ideas. And you can have your own thought, but that's why I said when you're in high school and it's hard to develop your own thinking because you're in an institution, you're kind of getting told what to do. That's how they develop it. So I know you say you don't see it, and maybe in a setting like a university you wouldn't.
Yeah.
But I think if you went to other settings where there's a lot of males or equal male and female, you'd be definitely surprised and you would not think everyone's gay.
Well, I think that's a decent place to leave it, because what we've ultimately left it as is, when I look at my experience in the world around it, I've come to my own conclusions, and it's hard to really disagree unless you've had my experience, and you've come to yours. If you've seen a lot of toxic masculinity, I'm not really in a place to say, well, you're wrong because I haven't lived your experience.
And you have to see where you are and try and see what factors play into that.
The context, the situation, absolutely.
Yeah.
You feel fine about that?
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
About things.
So you're happy for me to use that footage?
Yeah, that's fine.
Awesome. Yeah, cool.